when the first time I had binoculars, I took them to Dallas, and I sat down, and I looked up into the, like I would, dude, I could spend hours. I didn't, but
looking at the sun.
No, I would choose at nighttime. I would choose windows in buildings, and I'd just look in.
Are you
like,
admitting to a crime?
Yeah, that's like peeping Tom, bro.
No. So
like were there anyone in these buildings?
It's like so there were some where there's people working. They're at a desk,
You're just curious, bro. That's
yeah. So I'm like I want to be the window into that person's life. Like, what is that person's life?
I
Does
think
that
that's
make sense?
super common because I was talking to Rich a while back and saying like. I was like, you know what? I wouldn't mind trying to get an opportunity working with some of the people that we have in motion. Just be like, look, man, I'll be unpaid. I'll be, what do you call it? And I'll go with Shane in one of his trucks and I'll just sit there, and like
observe.
I think there is something to like just observing and being a part of something that. One of the reasons I think is because it has no bearing or impact on your life. Like, if this guy gets a ticket, you're like, that don't matter to me.
It's not my ticket.
Yeah,
but it's so much of your life and other people in your own world and in your own head, and you never like experience like other people's like what they experience.
I think that'd be a great TV show.
And
I would watch that.
As I have watched.
It's called Quantum Leap.
Is it really?
You know,
I remember the show. I don't remember watching it.
I know of the show, but I don't think I ever watched it.
I don't think I watched it.
I'm just thinking of Dirty Jobs with Mike Rowe.
Yeah,
like he would do that, but like just a regular day job.
Yeah,
like.
just like a
Quantum Leap. He would teleport into like a random person, and then have to figure out like who he is and like why he's there, and like he's got to like solve some problem.
What would happen to that person that he goes into?
He'd be asleep.
Well, he's just them. He's them, and he's got to like.
Oh, okay.
He's got to change their destiny, pretty much.
Yeah, I don't. I remember the show. But I don't
that's a show?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, it was a show.
I might have to look that up.
It's an older one. Yeah.
90s.
Back to dreaming. Have you ever heard of lucid dreaming?
Yeah, I think there's a song about that from.
I tried to do it the other night. That's.
So about it, what's lucid dreaming?
It's like when you are aware that you are dreaming.
Huh.
So you can kind of control what's going on in the dream.
Juice WRLD. That's who it is.
Juice WRLD?
Juice WRLD.
The rapper?
I think he has a song called Lucid Dreams.
I don't listen to Juice
My kid's
WRLD.
a big Juice WRLD fan.
Yeah. Shift is too on Wednesday. That's all they talk about is Juice WRLD. But lucid dreaming, it's when you are dreaming, but you are aware that you're dreaming. So you try to control it. So the other night I was having like a really good dream. And then I woke up and I was like, I want to go back. And I was like,
you try to go to sleep right away.
Yeah, I try to go to sleep and tell myself like, I'm dreaming, but I can control it. But I didn't. I just knocked right out.
What about like waking up? Like you're in a dream, you wake up and you want to be back in that dream.
Yeah.
So you try to put yourself back in that dream.
You never go back.
No. It's crazy. Have you ever been able to?
I think maybe like where you wake up and you're like, oh, what was that? Oh.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I don't even give my chance to blink. I'm just like, oh, go back to sleep.
I got sick maybe 2 months. No, it was probably last month. I got sick, real sick, where it kept me out for a couple of days. And that was the first time I like had a dream, woke up, went back to sleep, and like had the same dream. Like I was still, and I told Tiffany it was weird because I woke up like 3 times, and each time I went back to sleep, I was back in this dream.
Oh, so like this continuous dream.
It was weird,
awesome,
dude. It was weird. And like the 3rd time I recognized like, oh man, this is like, there's a dream. And then I woke up. Like right when you recognize that you're dreaming, you wake up, which is, I don't know, I think there's something to that as well. Like in your dreams, when you realize like if you're getting chased and you're fearing for your life, but there's a second in that dream where you're like, oh, I don't have to run. Like this is a dream. Then you wake up.
I don't think I've ever realized I was in a dream. I wonder. So we think we wake up right then, but how long is that time frame that you really do wake up? Do you really wake up right then, or is it like you just think you did? Do you wake up? But
couple minutes.
You've been out of that dream for a minute.
I don't know.
Oh, those are sleep study things.
Another thing is like when you're dreaming and you're falling, and then you wake yourself up. Like how do you know? Like because I've never fallen before, like off a mountain or out of a plane. But if I'm dreaming and I fall off a plane, like how does my body know what that feels like if I've never experienced it?
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
You ever done a cannonball into a pool?
Yeah.
I have, yeah.
Well, it's just like that, but longer.
I I guess.
I mean, I don't
but
know.
I'm not scared when I
Do a cannonball.
Cannonball.
when I cannonball. Like, you know? So how does my body and my brain know? What was that?
Have you been on like one of those roller coasters where
That's,
they drop
yeah,
you?
you're right. You're right.
There you go. That's why you should be right there.
I'm going to start calling Rich with my
You could
drink.
just turn. You could just turn. We could just turn the camera off, and you can be like a fourth
Yeah, you can
vocal.
just do the voice.
In all real, like really good podcasts, there's always someone off camera that just chimes in.
The voice of reason, the producer.
Jamie. I'll pull stuff up for you guys if
You remember? You remember?
Yeah.
Did you ever
Rich,
listen
pull
to Kid
this up.
Craddock in the morning?
Can you find that?
Ever what?
Kid Craddock in the morning.
Kid Craddock in the morning now.
Yeah, it was a radio station. There was a
Right here?
producer. No, it was a radio station. They did play it here, but there was a producer named Scott that was off camera. Or you ever listen to?
Big Boys Neighborhood, yeah.
Yeah.
I love Big Boys Neighborhood.
What's that rocker dude?
Power 106.
Rico and Bumbo.
No, the really controversial one.
Jubal and
No, that's one of
oh,
them.
Howard Stern.
Howard
Yeah,
Stern?
yeah. He always has those off-camera people.
Yeah.
Just be one of those, but more of a logical one.
What's her-
Dude, Baba Booey, dude. Did you ever listen to Howard Stern?
No,
You didn't? Oh, dude.
I'm telling you, all good podcasts, there's always someone off camera that just chimes
I
in.
had a, what do you call it, a dream, a thought, or whatever, and I'm like, you know what? I should do a podcast with Rich,
Yeah.
and we should call it Unqualified, and just talk about things we're unqualified to talk about. And so when someone gets angry, we'll be like, we're not qualified to talk about this. You know? Like,
I think we could start with that. Like, none of us are qualified to
Yeah.
talk about these things, but the fact is that a lot of people think about them, right?
Yeah.
and then
So
every
is-
time
is-
somebody wants me to talk about something, I'll be like, I can't because I'm qualified to talk about that.
So we're just gonna. This is gonna be like an open forum tonight type
Yeah.
thing. Okay.
Talking about motion, right? Mm-hmm. And the fact that when people get on ATL, they ask questions like, "What's a good church to go to?" Sometimes I want to go in there and I want to say, "Tell me a church you would go to, other than your church," and let's see what people would say. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I mean, you have someone like me who's only been to one church, and I'd be
Right.
like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Which is fine.
see.
I mean, that's a qualified answer. That's absolutely fine answer, right? But there are people who have gone to several other churches, or there are people who, you know, it's like, because I used to do interviews when I was at work, and I would ask an interviewee, like when we were doing internal interviews, other than you, who else should take this job or should get this job and why? And that really would tell tell a lot about.
Takes away your bias.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, because sometimes we'd ask that during boards and stuff too. We'd be like, if you could give this to anyone, who would you give it to?
Right.
And you would always wait to be like, me, 'cause I'm the, and you're like, this guy, you know.
Yeah,
like, But some people had some really great. They're like this person because he does all this phenomenal stuff, and you're just like, wow, this guy knows how to recognize someone, how to do
Yeah,
some great stuff.
absolutely. So, and that's what I'm saying. Like, and I get that. Like, some people, I love my church. Like, I'm the same way. Like, I love motion, right? But if you absolutely didn't want to go to motion, what church would you suggest to someone? I think that a lot of people would struggle to answer that question, right?
Yeah.
It's hard, and a lot of people. So,
I think people struggle to answer that because there's a reason they found their church and they go to their church.
Right.
Because there might be something that about this church that I'm like, I didn't really like it. So how could I recommend something that, and that really goes into how can I recommend something that I'm not going to do myself? Like,
Yeah.
Right.
I don't go there. How would I tell someone else to go there? You know, like I don't want them to go there, have a bad experience, and then all of a sudden be
Yeah.
like, ugh.
I'd recommend the church we used to go to in Georgia.
so
If you're ever in Columbus, Georgia, go to this church.
So what I say, so when people get on there and ask, one of the things I would say is, I think you should try all the churches.
All of them, bro?
As
You
many,
know how
well,
many churches are in Longview?
I know there's a bunch.
There's like
But,
200
you
in
know,
some churches.
But in reality,
There's only one church
like-
in your heart.
no. Like, try as many churches as you want,
Yeah.
and then decide the one you want. Like, because people will get out there and will say all this good stuff about any church, and somebody will go there and be like, dude, that's the worst church I've ever been to.
That's why if someone asks me what church they go to, that's not mine. I'd just be like, don't go.
Yeah.
I tell them I won't say the name, but there's an interesting church in Longview we went to where the pastor preached with a staff the whole time, like a stick. I told you guys about that, right?
Yeah.
Shall not pass.
And I really thought he was going to tie it in with the message or there's going to be a point, but no, that's just his thing.
I think now's a good time to say that all the viewpoints and opinions that we share do not reflect those of Motion Church.
Independently owned and operated.
No, but so motion has been an integral. So I was thinking about, even today, I was thinking about this, like, where would I be if motion didn't exist? If I had not walked through those doors? I really, I was invited by a friend of mine, and since then, it's been a whole journey in motion. My life has been a journey, and right next to it has been motion.
You could ask, like, what does your church give you that other churches haven't? And then maybe someone's like, that's what, like, okay, well, what you found isn't what I'm looking for. What you found isn't what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I'm looking at for that. Like, someone may be like, oh, I have great community there. And someone could be like me, who was like, no, I don't want community. I just want to be private. I want to do all this stuff. And then someone's like, yo, we don't talk to anybody. And they're like, bingo.
Yeah, that's me.
That's me. You know?
In and out.
Then you find a community. And the music is awesome. The messages, they're so relatable. There's times, you can't be any person after 13 years is not. If you say every single message was for me, I mean, I'm gonna question the honesty there.
I mean, but you also have people like Tom, who's like, I felt it was time for me to go try something else.
Right.
Like, and some people are like, hey, my church wasn't bad, but it just was time for me. Like, maybe the church wasn't talking to me specifically anymore. Like, sometimes I feel like that. Sometimes, like, when I go to small group, I'm like, well, I don't have these problems. Like, am I supposed to be? Like, is this a place for me?
Yeah. I know what you mean. We go to this church in California when we go visit family. And it's
Southern
a good
California?
church. Southern California, in Ventura County. Okay. It's a good church, but the church's identity is they cater a lot to recovery, like recovering addicts and alcoholics. So, like, a lot of the messages is catered around that. So I like going to the church, but at the same time, it's like I never really struggled with these things. Like, I used to do drugs, but I was never like an addict, I would say.
You're like half baked.
Yeah.
Where you go and they're like, you're not an addict.
So I feel that, where it's like, I like going here, but I don't feel connected to the messages, necessarily.
That first message, and this is the infancy in the infancy of the church, was like he's talking to me, and there's some issues I need to deal with. But even today, even recently, I listen. I'm like, dang, man, it's crazy that he can still share those messages. And I think now I'm a little more convicted in the things I do. Like, do I need to be doing this, or do I need to be doing that?
Yeah.
I also like that I've been blessed to be able to watch the struggles of the growth of the church. And if a church looks beautiful when you look at it, and they pretend like there's not a problem at all, I'm skeptical. Like, there are issues behind those facades.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't think anybody in our leadership makes any. They don't
present themselves as like righteous and perfect or whatever.
Absolutely, yeah. They are no different than any other person.
I know. I saw that the other day at a basketball game. Chris was like telling this guy, he's like, "Don't talk to me anymore," and I was like, "Oh dang!"
And it's good.
Really?
Doesn't it feel like good to know that's
Was he coaching?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
but the guy next to me was running the scoreboard, and something happened. And then the refs came and talked to me and like, hey, well, what do you have? And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing there. And they're looking at me and I'm like, yo, I was called from the stands and saying, can you sit here? Like,
Yeah.
And then so Chris is trying to explain to this guy like some logical, like, hey, if this equals this this is where we should be. And the guy's like full panic mode. He's like, get away, do all this stuff. And then Chris is like, at some point, Chris is like, stop talking to me. Don't tell me another word. And I was just like, oh, he frustrated.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
For me.
But I mean, do you think you would see that if you didn't have as much interaction?
No.
If you showed up
you
on
just
Sunday,
went to Sunday,
went
yeah,
to mass and
yeah.
came back, then I think every church presents
Yeah.
like that. I think you have to
Yeah.
get involved with the community and know the people, because I could tell you that I probably wouldn't have seen any
But I would tell you, like, there's people that will be this way at home,
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
like
be like, be even on their best behavior even at a game, and I'm like, but you're being this way at home.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like, and I think I think Chris is okay with who he is to be able to show just that he's a human being all over the place.
You know, I don't think it's that he's okay with who he is. I think he just tries to be as real as possible, and that's
Yes.
and it's consistency that comes out. Because I think when you try to be something different is when the cracks happen, and then you're like, "Ooh, I see a piece of you."
Yeah.
That,
Yeah,
You know, what do you
yeah.
call it? So
Yeah.
when somebody's just being, you know, genuine, and you're like, "Okay, well, I'm going to see the same Chris
Yeah.
like as a preacher, same Chris as a coach, same Chris." Even though I see more frustration as a coach than I see him during preaching, but
And you know what? So I've been there since 2012, and people are like he has to have cussed at some point. He has to have. And some people are like, I know he has. I know he's. And I'm like I've been around Chris a lot. I have yet to catch him, like, since 2012. I have yet to catch him cuss.
and some people are like that.
Dude, and I'm like, and there's been some time, you know, obviously, you know, I see him a lot, and I'm like, and I'll see the frustration, like, okay, here it goes.
This is it.
No, nothing.
I thought I
Here
was
comes
gonna
that
hear him
for you.
curse, but he was like, "Freaking!"
Yeah.
because that's when he was. He's like, "Don't freaking die another word to me," and I was like, "Ooh!" And then I heard "freaking," and I was like, "Oh!" I thought it was kind of,
Yeah.
"Don't you freaking!" And I was like, "Ugh."
That doesn't count. that doesn't count, man.
Yeah, I was like, "Okay."
I will give that to him though. Like, no matter that, like, that's, you know, maintain that, and you know, obviously, if I'm not gonna say me, but there's people that would have let that go, like, started cussing out, and I'm like, it takes a lot to not cuss.
I mean, I feel that
practice.
would have been me in the old days. I would have just went off,
Yeah.
and then that would have drove me, and I wouldn't have been able to really stop it and be like, you know what, like, let me take a breath. But it takes a lot of training. I think a lot of self-training to be like, look, don't let your emotions control you. You know.
Yeah. It takes practice. Just like everything that we do.
Welcome to the story of every man. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kevin Garcia, and I'll be joined by John Silos and Chris Johnson. Today, we don't really have a specific interviewee, so we're just going to kind of talk amongst ourselves and learn a bit more about each other.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Let me see yours. You do yours. You do one.
Welcome to the story of every man.
I was just talking about.
I can't
All right,
do it.
Luther Vandross. Do
I
it.
can't do the intro.
So one of my questions. Oh yeah, I have questions. I mean, I guess we're just gonna go back and forth. So I guess one of my questions would be. It's kind of deep though. Like, so I don't know if you're ready.
We're ready to deep dive.
I don't know if you're ready to deep dive here.
I'm ready to deep dive.
Okay, so having known you for a short time, I see that you're a true believer in Christ, right? Like, you believe.
Mm-hmm.
But you have this kind of like parallel that I see that's like almost like you believe in him enough, but from my perspective, I don't know that you trust him fully because of you talk so much about your fears. And if we believe that, you know, Jesus, you know, there's no problem we have bigger than Jesus. You know, there's no enemy that we have that's greater than Jesus. My question is, how do you balance the two with like living with a lot of fears?
I think where that comes from is, so I think it comes from two different places. And first, I would like to tell people, like, I'm still fairly new, right? So I've made it a point to be serious about following God and following Jesus probably the last 3 years. Prior to that, I was just going through the motions. Like, I would go to church, and, you know, that was like me being a believer, right? But who I was in church was someone different than I was at work and at home. So within the past 3 years, ever since I found Motion Church, I've really made it a point to be serious about this. So there's a lot of things that I'm still learning how to do. You know, I talk about your peace. I'm still trying to find out, how do I find that peace, right? So although I've done some incredible things, like I preached twice, like I'm still learning how to be like Jesus, how to be a true follower. In my life, I've put my trust in people and situations, and they have let me down. like even my parents, right? So you put your trust in your parents and you figure like these are the two people that absolutely should not let me down, right? But I've been let down by parents before. I've been let down by really, really close friends and even mentors before. So I think it stems from that. One of those, so that's part of it, right? Me in the past putting my trust in people that I believed in, but they have let me down. And although we know Christ won't let us down, there's still that little piece of me that I'm trying to bury, so to speak, trying to get rid of. That Christ won't let me down. People will let you down all the time, but Jesus won't let you down. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect comes from myself. Doing things that I thought were right that turned out to be wrong. So I talked to you guys about moving to Georgia. Like I really thought moving to Georgia was the right decision for me, but it turned out to be the wrong decision. So I'm still learning how to one, trust God in a way that I don't trust people, and two, trust myself that situations might let you down, but at the end of the day, like we lean on Jesus to correct that. So when you ask, like, how can I be fearful? That is something I do struggle with because I do have a lot of fears. And then I was getting better at it. And then my wife got the diagnosis and then boom, it comes back like, see, like I'm being let down. But then I'll hear a message or, God will say something to me where he says like, this is just a part of life. Like when you find yourselves in these situations, this is where you're supposed to be closer to me. Don't let your mind take you away from me. So I think it's just my past. I think it's me letting myself down and other people letting me down. I still have this fear that no matter what happens in life, like I'm going to be disappointed. So I'm still trying to fight through that.
But so was that move to Georgia, was it wrong?
It turned out not to be.
Okay, and then your wife's illness, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as horrible as that was, like the two times you've talked about those, you've talked about how huge change has come from that. How like when your wife got sick, the perceptions that you had about like, hey, being at home was no big deal until I had to be at home also. And I realized how much work and how much she does for me.
Yeah.
Or like when you said, I realized that maybe I wasn't the best husband I was. So, I mean, while those are, horrible things that we can definitely look to and say, hey, here it comes again, bad. It's like these bad instances are making great positive changes in your life.
Yeah.
So still, I feel you end up ahead of the game, like the one step back, two steps forward situation, and that one step back, I feel shouldn't be like what the focus on. The focus should be like, man, I was able to take 2 steps ahead, and I'm in a way better situation now than I was. So while it is a tragedy that I moved there and was treated really bad, or that my wife got sick, I feel like the focus can be on the wrong thing and being like, man, the great things that have come from these challenges that I was faced with. Because I think one thing that when I talk to people biblically, I think they forget is our God doesn't just throw flowers at our feet. Like he brings the rain to correct something that's drastic. And it almost has to be a drastic negative to really grab the attention and say, hey, look, I really am trying to get your attention right now, Chris. Like, you're not listening to the small words I'm saying, either because you didn't want to or you couldn't hear me. So now I'm going to, like, boom, lightning bolt something so you can really start putting your eyes on me. Yeah.
I wouldn't trade those two experiences for anything. Like, being on the other side of them, just like what you said, what I've learned and what they have done for me and my family and what they have taught me, I wouldn't trade them for anything in the world. However, the feelings that I had when I was going through them, that is something that I never want to have to feel again. So that is that's the little piece that sticks with me. So I did learn these great life lessons, but I still have that like, gosh, that really hurt. So I think about this sermon that I just preached a few Sundays ago about Bathsheba and David. So I'm sure David being on the other side would say, I would never sleep with another woman's wife, right? Like I learned a very important and powerful lesson about this lust thing. But at the same time, like I lost my child, and that was very painful. So although I did learn this incredibly good lesson, like there was a price to pay. And for me, I think that price to pay was like, I think I lost a little bit of my joy in those two situations that I'm trying to get back. So I lost a little bit of because before we moved to Georgia and before Tiffany had her illness, man, I was invincible. You know, I was rapping, I was doing comedy, I was doing podcasts. Like life was good. We had struggles, right? Like, you know, we weren't rich. Like we had everyday struggles, but I didn't care about them. After I went through those things, it kind of woke me up. Like you are not invincible. Like life, that was the first real pain. Like I've dealt with pain before, but that was those two things were like the first adult pain that I've had to deal with. So, I mean, I'm 39 years old, but I've had struggles and I had some things that really sucked in life. But those two things hurt. Everything else I could get rid of. You know, I went to jail. I messed up. There was a season in my life where I was kind of homeless, sleeping out of my car for a few weeks. But all those things were like, I was young, I was in college. Like, that's just life. These two things happened to me when I was a husband and when I was a father. So I think they just hit really, really different. So I wouldn't trade them for anything in the world, but the pain that I felt personally as a person and the thoughts that I had to deal with going through those two instances, I think that is why my fear sticks around, because I'm not necessarily afraid to go through things anymore, but I am afraid to feel what I felt again. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, but I'm still, like I said, I'm new, so I'm still working on it. So I have to find a way to praise through pain. I've been hearing that phrase come up a lot, and I feel like that's God talking to me. Praise without season, pray without season. So that is something that takes practice. Like I have to learn. So I tell myself, like the next time I have adversity, like I'm gonna praise through that adversity.
Yeah.
And I hope I'm true to my word and that I do praise through that adversity. But at the same time, there's like 50% of me that's like, man, I really don't want to have to go through adversity again because it sucked.
And adversity does suck. But I mean, I know a little bit about you guys. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but it's interesting. You said you were in a great place in your life. You were rapping. You were doing podcasts. You were doing all this stuff, right? I would say you're in a great place in your life now.
Yeah.
You've gone on that stage and rapped. I was there for that service. You've preached on that stage.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're a better father, a better husband now, and like your kids are healthy, your wife is healthy now, and things are moving in the right direction. So, I mean, I would say that you're in a pretty great place in your life right now.
I may have misspoke. I was in a great worldly place, right? Right now, I'm in a great spiritual place.
Right.
Like that, I feel took me. And I tell people that like that want to follow Christ, like once you make this choice, it kind of sucks.
Yeah,
because the old life that you used to enjoy so much, like that doesn't feel enjoyable anymore. Like it was fun to get high and rap and like live carefree, but when I made this choice to follow God, like I couldn't do that anymore. And not that I didn't want to, but I just like that didn't fulfill me anymore. Now what fulfilled me was, you know, praying with my wife, reading my Bible, surrounding myself with people like you guys, going to church, getting involved in church. And the more you do those things, the less you want to do other things. And that's a whole nother like dichotomy you have to wrestle with. Like now I'm trying to live this righteous life. I don't want to live this worldly life anymore. But you realize quickly, like when I lived in the world, there was a lot less responsibility or a lot less care that I had. And that's not good, right? It's not a good thing, but that's just part of being in the world. Like you're so consumed with what makes me feel good, what makes me look good, what makes me, what makes my dopamine, reach an all-time high. And you surround yourself with those things. But when you decide to follow Christ, it's not about you anymore. It's about him and it's about other people. And then that's a whole, like, another struggle in itself. But I was in a great worldly place that I wouldn't want to go back to. But at times I'm like, man, to go back to college where, like, all I had to worry about was going to class. And I think every parent thinks about this from time to time. Like, I remember a day in my life when there was no responsibility, where everything was just chill. And I thought that was hard. I thought, like, that was stressful. Like all these classes and all these papers I got to write, and like that's stressful. But now you're like, I got kids that I got to keep alive and fed and out in the world. Like I have a wife that I have to keep happy. I have a church that I'm committed to. I have my own relationship with Christ that I have to keep working at. Like it's a lot of work to follow Jesus. And I thought it would be easier, but it's actually harder. It was easier to live how I was living before. And I think that's what I was trying to say when I said, like, things were good. It was just easy to live that way. It's hard to live, a righteous life.
And I have heard that, like a saying where they say, why do bad people have it so good?
Yeah.
And I heard this thing where it says, devil will line the cell with blankets and cushions and just make it as comfortable as possible until that thing slams shut.
Yeah.
So it is a little difficult. I can understand, but I mean, from the outside looking in, I would say you're in a great worldly place. Like you're in a place that appreciates you. Like you're, like in Georgia, you weren't being appreciated. You were kind of like, people were talking behind your back and it was just like shadiness. But I'm like, in the world, people are appreciating you now. Like you don't have the same struggles that you did. Right. I mean, your struggles are different.
They're different.
They're different now. And I would probably say those struggles are more difficult because other people, like it's like if you're like, oh, my car blows up, whatever, but now you're like, I got a car seat in there, so now it's different, like so. But yeah, I mean, it's hard for me because I try to project the piece I have and say, why doesn't everyone have this? Why doesn't everyone have this? And I think I'm the same as you. I look at that other scope. When I was deployed, it was great. I went somewhere and they cooked for me and they would do the dishes because they would eat at a chow hall, so you just pass your tray in. And I never had to worry about paying bills because I never got a bill in the mail. And I never had to worry about like anything really. I knew exactly what to wear. I knew exactly where I needed to be and all the things. And then when I came home, it's like, oh my God, my kids need this. My kids are hungry. I got to take this one to school. I have to focus on so many different things other than me. So I do understand that the challenge of the difference of saying like, hey man, this was the easy life. Yeah. A selfishly easy life. This life, while it's rewarding, it's just so much extra work to get the same kind of like rewards that I had. So I do completely understand that, but I do tend to project the piece I have and be like I don't see crazy hardships. Why is your life so hard? Like you should be really peaceful right now. And sometimes I have to remember, like we all have our different situations going on. I think it's interesting too, though. Like, so I am going through this season of fear, and I think I'm getting out of it, honestly. But it was interesting, and I was thinking about this the other day. So I'm going through this season of fear and everything that's happening with Tiffany, and shortly after that, like we meet you, right? And you have this incredible peace about you. And I just think it was interesting that God placed you in my life when I'm going through this season of fear. Because one of the things that has honestly helped me is you asking me questions
like you just asked me, because you've alluded to this in our small group before. Like you told me, like, you think about my fear a lot and how that kind of not really contradicts my faith, but how it kind of bumps heads with my faith. And that has given me a lot of thought. And since I've verbalized, because I've never had people that I can be like, yo, I'm scared of eating hot dogs, dude. Mm-hmm. Like, I've never had people that I can be that open with. And I don't want to tell my wife how much I fear things, because she's my wife and she's probably going to watch this, but she'll know. But she knows I have a level of fear to me. But at the same time, we got to be dad and we got to be husband. So we don't want to destroy that image. So I never really had anyone in my life that I can go to, like I come to our small group and say, like, I'm really struggling with this, dude. But if I take a step back, like, I am scared of a lot of things that I should not be scared of. And that has really helped me to verbalize that, because now I can hear myself saying it and hear you guys giving me feedback. And I realize, like, dude, it's not a dumb reason to be scared, but it's kind of like, if you think about it, like, you're a child of God. Like, have a hot dog, dude. You know what I mean? Yeah. At the end of the day, God's got you. It may be painful. You may have some hard times, but you should find comfort in who you call your father. So I think it's interesting that you came into my life when I'm in this season of fear, because you've shined a lot of light on things that I never even realized. Like, or, just your peace about you. I'm like, gives me a goal. Like, that's how I want to be. I want to be like Kevin. I want a doctor to tell me there's something that looks odd on my scans, and for me to kick my shoes off and be like, we'll find out what it is. You know what I mean? Like, that gives me a goal that gives me something to inspire to be. So I think it's very interesting that you came into my life right when you did. But I am, like I said, I am getting better. I am. I know it doesn't seem like it, because every time we talk, I just talked about how I was scared of dreams sometimes. So every time we talk, it feels like I'm telling you guys that I'm scared of something else. But I do realize that, okay, I'm starting to breathe a little bit easier now.
How long has it been since you've had a hot dog?
We had some last week.
Okay, so you're good.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Now,
see,
I have to admit, I do uncured hot dogs with no nitrates, none of that added stuff. But I enjoy a hot dog. I do.
That's a really good question, man. I appreciate that.
That is a good question.
That's good.
I guess I should throw a question for John. Should I throw a question to you? Is it a back and forth situation there?
Well, let's go with one and one. Do you have one?
Oh, okay.
I want to know about you, John. I want to know. Actually, I have a question for both of you, but I'm gonna, since I started with you, I'm gonna start at you. You said, what keeps you from 100% believing?
Man, I wish I knew. Maybe there's a psychological description to it. There's just a block.
Because you are surrounded
Yeah.
by God's people, and
I'm surrounded by God's love, I think, as well. There are times when I'm by myself,
mm-hmm.
and I lose my mind. I'll lose my mind in my thoughts. You know, I'm in the last quarter of my life, and you know that day is going to come at any given time now. I'll want to rationalize so much so quickly, things in general. At 48 years old, I'm unaware of my full purpose here. It's almost like an unwillingness to let go of that control, like as if there's one piece of tendon holding on, and then it won't cut.
Do you believe it's the God that we talk about, or do you have a different version of God in your head that's slightly different?
I believe that it's the one that Chris teaches about.
Mm-hmm. Because you told us, like, in the beginning, like, you don't know, like, when Kevin asked me the question, you're like, I don't know if I fully believe.
So
what don't you fully believe?
Here's my logic at work. When I was in my bike wreck, I hit my head, lights out. Next thing I know, I feel hands on my head, and I audibly hear somebody's coming, and then I was gone again. The next time I was aware, I was in the hospital,
mm-hmm.
and people were talking to me. Between those two times, my consciousness was non-existent. And I've thought a lot about that since then. I'm like, is that what death is like?
Just lights out.
Just lights out. I was, there was no pain. There was no existence. There wasn't white, black. There was a lack of time. So time did not exist between those two times. And I'm thinking to myself, is this what death is like? And so ever since then, I want to justify that. Is that what death is like? Is when it's lights out, that's it.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go to heaven. Because if that is what it is, there is no pain in it.
Right.
Right. And if it's not, then I'm like, what is? Because if that's it, I'm okay with it. And I know those are logical questions that I have.
No, I get it.
Is that the logic in it? And
here's what I would say though, and I don't know what death is because I've never died.
But for your question,
it sounds like it's the afterlife that you may have questions about.
Yeah.
What exactly that is.
Yeah.
But it also kind of sounds like he questions like, and I could be 100% wrong, but it almost sounds like you're like, I've done so much bad. Why am I still here? When other people haven't done so much bad and they're dead, they're gone home.
Very good point. Why did God say, I'm taking this card here from this? Sometimes good people, but here you are who has done bad this time, and you've said, I'm going to say, I'm not going to take you this time. Why am I still blessed with life when someone who has had a wonderful life, let's just say at 23, gets cancer and is pulled? And I'm like, why God? Why? And now, these days, like in daily situations, I'm asking myself, is this a sign? Like, is he telling me to do this or not to do this? Because I still don't know up to this point. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, I heard something once. I don't know where I heard it. I could have heard it at our church. I could have heard it at a podcast or whatever. But they said on that topic of why good people die, and it's like, God knows all our stories, right? From the time we're born to the time we die. And sometimes they say, this person was going to go to somewhere they couldn't turn back. So before they did that and sent themselves to hell, I took them so they could go to heaven.
Like, I don't think God calls people home. Like, I like what Kevin said because I feel like that's a part of it, But the other part I think is I don't think God calls people home based on the good or the bad that they do. It's based on the purpose that they were created to serve. God is God, and our brains won't ever be able to comprehend why he does the things he does. So the short answer to that is like, we don't know. It's like playing a video game. You create this huge game and each code serves a function. And once that function has done what it's supposed to do, then, you can move on to something else. So that's the way I look at it. I think it's just all purpose.
I also think that, something that Chris said earlier when he said, I decided to change the path that he was on. It's like, it's not easy. It's not easy because I really feel that no matter how great your intentions are, the enemy's going to challenge you.
Yeah.
It's going to try and test you. For every, 2 people that you do right, 3 people are going to want to wrong you. And so that makes it a great, what do you call it? You make a great point when you talk about that. It's like, there's always going to be someone that's going to be there. That, like, I think when I decided, I've always been a believer in Christ and stuff, but when I chose to change my life around and say, you know what, God, I'm giving it to you. I think that was, and I thought it was going to be easy. I'm like, once I give it to God, everything's going to be smooth sailing.
Yeah.
That was kind of the most difficult. That's when I faced the most challenge. That's when, like, and my wife will say it too. She's like, I think the enemy's trying to get between us right now. The enemy's trying to make us argue. There's so many things that are trying to pull you off track. And there's so many things in the world that that don't want you to go to Christ. I mean, we talk about how Jesus was tested in the desert. Like, even if Jesus can be tested,
I was just about to say that.
Who am I?
Yeah.
And it wasn't like just a like, hey, do this and worship me and we're good. And it was like, nah. And the devil was like, all right, you got me.
All right. Yeah.
It was like,
no, he came back.
And
yeah.
again
Yeah.
and again. And it's like, and you know, I mean, not long after that, I think Jesus was crucified. But I mean, like, I've been around 44 years so far. And I think that, you know, if I'm not as powerful as him, I feel the devil's going to be like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm just going to every once in a while try to test you and see if I can pull you off course.
Yeah. What I have learned is the closer you get to God, the closer you get to a blessing or your purpose or what it is God wants you to do. That's when you start getting attacked with doubt and social media people and people wanting to talk bad about your name. Like, if the devil wouldn't care about you if you were worldly, right? Because you're already on his side. But when you're moving in the way that God wants you to move, then he's like, I got to do something to stop this. And I always tell people, like, when me and Tiffany made the choice, we didn't fight for like a long time. Like, we would bicker, right? But we never had like real knockdown, like
Drag out fights, yeah.
drag out
I get it.
fights, like not physical fights, but like fights. The moment I proposed, the moment we said, okay, we need to get married, we need to start living like a Christ-like life, and we realized like the first thing we need to do is get married. From the moment I proposed, we started arguing about the craziest things. That was the first time in our life where we actually were like, should we even get married? Like, you know, we had been good up until the point where we decided to get married. And now we're having these fights where, like, I remember I slept on the couch for like a whole month just because I was like, I'm checked out. Like, I don't want to, you know what I mean? And like, now that I look back on it, it's like once I made the choice to do something that was good, we started to bump heads. And ever since then, I've been on the lookout for that. Like, okay, there's something to that, right? Even when I made the choice to get baptized, I was like, I'd made the choice to quit smoking, but once I decided to get baptized, I started to want to do all these things again. And so now I know, like, whenever you are moving in purpose, like, you got to be on the lookout for him, the enemy, to come and try to get you off course, because that's his job. His job is not to let us get close with Jesus, and he doesn't want us to go to heaven. He doesn't want us to have a relationship with God.
I go back to this thing where I've said before, one, you give a woman an ear, and they're gonna think so much more, right? And they will start sharing about internal issues with relationships, and the moment that is a trigger, like that is a trigger warning for me, and that's for anybody. If somebody from the opposite sex starts talking to you about the problems within their relationship, it's a problem. You've got to ask yourself, do I continue this conversation or end it? Because if you continue it, there's a door that's going to open that it's going to close behind you. For example, I don't think either anybody would appreciate that your significant other were talking to someone of the opposite sex about a problem that you guys had that was private, right? And if you talk to somebody about that, this was affair 101, cheating 101. If you talk to somebody about that, if I'm talking to a girl about that, and, you know, just listen, don't even respond, she starts to like you. Doesn't matter what you look like. All you're doing is what?
Listening.
That's it. And that's all she wants.
That's all they want. Yeah, that's all, I mean, not all they want. That's
The
females,
at that moment, right? At that moment.
from what I've heard, right? So you don't get it. You like that? Yeah. Don't kill the messenger. Even my wife has said, sometimes I don't want you to fix anything. I don't want you to do anything. I just want you to listen.
Right.
And I feel that something so small is so rare that it's just appreciated to a level that it's like, you're like, whoa, like unintentional. Like all I was doing was trying to be a good ear. I feel like when I became a better person, and I tried to have like friendships with all people, they can all kind of be taken wrong because I'm like, once I got married, you know, I'm no longer pursuing anyone. I no longer really care, so I don't really have to fake the funk and try to be like this. Yeah. You know, I'm just like who I am, and sometimes even just being who you are can be misleading to some people, and you're like, well, but you were listening. And like, my bad, you know, like I didn't know what else I was supposed to do.
I'm going to ask you an honest question, John. So we talked in our small group a few weeks back, and we talked about not putting ourselves in situations, right? So you said, like, you have these conversations and the door is opened. So 2 questions. The first one is, do you feel like something you're saying or doing is opening that door? And the second question is, like, you said, like, so you're talking to a woman and she's married and she starts telling you about these problems. So why are you talking to a married woman? That can only lead you to somewhere you don't want to be.
Right. And then I get it, right? And I get it. And I couldn't tell you. Like, maybe it's a habit, maybe it's a psychological desire to talk to people. I don't know. Because I'll write almost anybody, you know. But when it is a woman, I'm always curious to know. Like, because I don't know, dude. I want to know everything.
Yeah.
Like, I'm nosy. I got a big nose. So if she writes me, I'm like, you know, my mind's like, I don't want to do anything, but I'm like, what's this? And then even now, like, in my cynical mind, I talk about my cynical mind. Somebody's trying to trap me. Somebody's trying to catch me so they can put it on ATL.
So you entertain it though.
Yeah, yes, I do.
Yeah.
But when I recognize it, like, there's a time where I got to recognize it and say, you know, not in a very direct, but like in the conversation, because it's not cool, right? Even if it's just somebody who is available, like, I have to, like, tell them without telling them, you know, I'm not interested, because I know it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And for their sake and for my sake, I don't want to waste time.
That makes sense.
But I do want to keep people as friends, because sometimes I just like chatting.
You are single, so I was thinking about it from my point of view.
Right.
Like,
But think about it from your point of view as somebody who's married, right? If your wife were to write me, and I don't think she ever has, but if she were to write me out of the blue, I remember she has never has. She were to write me out of the blue, or your wife, who I've never really had any conversation with, say, hey, how are you doing? Boom, my eyebrows like, I don't know you. Why are you writing me?
Yeah.
Like, I'm doing fine. How are you doing? You know? And see what she really wants. And then, like, if it were to come from your wife, I'll be like, they're trying to catch me doing something. What are they trying to catch me doing? And then so there's just different things, you know, and you know, I have to fight this. So if it were to come from people that I love, then I'm going to say something to them.
Right, of course.
But if it's somebody I don't know, just going to end the conversation, because there's no really a physical desire that I used to have, you know, and it's become easier. It's easier to say no, right? And,
You know, if I look at that outside, like, I think it would be hard for me as well. I feel like I would probably entertain a lot of conversations from people with the mindset that, like, maybe they're looking, like, I've been married for a year, and they're looking at someone to be like, look, this is my situation. Like, how do you handle it? I think it would have to be like, whoa, wait a minute, you just took it to a certain place. Because I think I would also entertain that, because I have a desire to help people. And something my wife knows is true emotion gets me all the time. So if someone comes and tries to pick the phone, I'm like, whatever, get out of here. But if someone's like, hey, I need help, I need advice, I need something, I would probably be like, hey, you know what, I'm here to listen, because I can tell you what worked for me. I mean, I went through a lot of struggle through my marriage at the front end, and I've overcame a lot, and now we're in a great place. And I mean, I think I would have the mindset, like, I'm hoping this person is trying to get in a better position with their spouse.
Yeah.
And knowing me, I'm like, I know that I wouldn't try to take advantage of the situation and be like, oh, she's hurting, let me see if that's going to be an easier in for me.
Yeah.
It'd be like, hey,
there's just something that, and I believe that comes from my mom, because my mom would give you, we were dirt poor, and give you anything we had, even though we didn't have nothing. And there's a level of, man, I cannot not help somebody. Even if, and some stuff that I even put on social media, like even if you and I had an argument, or you say that I am the absolute biggest piece of trash, if I see you on the side of the road, I'm not going to pass you up. I just can't do it.
Yeah, I can. I'm a grocery.
It's just, there's something bigger than that for me. Does that make sense?
That makes sense, yeah.
I think that's a good quality to have.
Yeah.
I just think you got to be careful.
I wanted to ask you that seeing as much destruction and death in your career, does that desensitize you to the process of death? Does that desensitize you, and did that help you with the peace process, knowing that, seeing it often?
That was actually my question too.
Yeah. You know, it puts things into perspective, but I mean, when I was growing up as a young child, my mom was doing nursing school, and I would watch the videos that she'd do, and a lot of it was medical-related kind of videos. And so I wanted to help people, and then you start helping people. And then you kind of get into the realist of like, hey, people live and people die. I think where it becomes a problem when you see someone die unnecessarily, that can really put, or the respect people have for that process. I remember one time we were working in the ER out in Iraq, and this kid died, and we were like, okay, well, he died, it's time to go eat or whatever. And then some kids came in and wanted to take pictures of this kid. Not anything like posing or anything like that, but just like, it's like, oh, and man, it fired me up so bad because I'm like, yo, there's a respect level here. This kid just died. And I had to kick everyone out and put a blanket over the kid and been like, so. And I did learn to turn a switch on and turn a switch off. And it was easy as kind of like moving around my family because you didn't get community too well with people. So my thought process was like, hey, as long as it doesn't affect my family, I don't care. Someone died. I'm like, okay, whatever. I had a friend who committed suicide, and a couple guys that we all deployed together, they were like, hey, what's his name? A friend of ours died. And they're like, y'all want to meet up together so we can talk about him. And the first thing I did was I deleted his number from my phone. I was like, whoop. I'm like, he ain't calling me back. And then I was sitting there with these two other guys, and one guy's like, I can't even take his number off my phone. And I'm sitting there like, something wrong with me? Like, cause the first thing I did was like, zoop, like, so it does desensitize you because we used to have to, because of the heat, we have something called mortuary affairs. And when somebody dies, they come and pick up the body and they process the body and all this stuff. And they couldn't get to us fast enough. So we'd have to put them in freezers and we'd stack them. We'd stack them in the refrigerators. Like one guy carried the feet, I'm carrying the hands. And we just like, foop, like, hey, then we go to lunch, like, foop. So there is a desensitization process that at least I went through where you realize like, hey, it's just life and death kind of thing.
Yeah. Did that help you in the peace that you have now? Because that it's easier to say, I'm facing this situation as opposed to somebody who hasn't faced it very often.
I think I can say it desensitized me to a point. I think there's death can be to me a little emotionalist, especially if I don't know someone. It's like you're just a bag of meat with, like.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's similar.
Yeah, but I don't think it desensitized me to all deaths. Like I'm sure if someone like I cared about died, I would probably it would hit me still really hard. And even though I would try to tell myself all the great things like they're in heaven and all this stuff, it did desensitize you to a point to where you see it more as hey, this is my job. It either worked or it didn't work. And I want to say I felt bad for everyone that did pass, but you could only feel so bad for so long before the next person came in or before your next mission. And being in the military out in a combat zone, like they're like always like, you got to keep your head in the mission because you don't want to compromise something. Complacency kills. So I think that taught me not to think about things so long in general, death included, to be like, I can take this much time to think about it before I need to process it and before I need to move on, because I can't let any situation affect my attention span long enough to put you in danger. And so, so I would say, for me personally, it did desensitize me. Like, I have no problems.
But did that help you? Like in the peace, when you talk about peace, did that help? Like I'm good. I know that it's a process. I know that I'm saved.
Yeah, I mean, I think having a pseudo relationship with God, even as private as it was, gave me some sort of peace. I never really thought like I would die. I was always like, God's got my back.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be good. And I really feel that probably has really impacted my peace, because I try not to get bothered by things, because I really feel I control nothing.
Right.
You know, like, I control like very little in my life. And I've had to work with my wife to be like, God's got this. We got to have faith in God, and learn and listen and stuff like that. So I don't know that specifically helped me with my peace. I think it's more so that the fact that knowing that I control very little is what has helped me with my peace. To be like, when I got that abnormality on my pancreas and nobody knows what it is, I really was like, it's going to be whatever you want it to be, God, honestly. And I mean, I'm sure that I wouldn't have had so much peace if it would have been like, you got cancer. I probably would have been in struggle mode and really emotional and all this stuff. But the rational side of me and the logical side says that, it's going to be what you want it. Like, the situation as a whole, whether it's my finances, my health, my relationship, my family, is like, it's what you want it to be, God. And I can only do great things and hope that great things will follow. You know, but I think I used to have a really control situation where I was like, I'm the reason this is going to happen. I'm the reason this is going to happen. And I think that made me stress a lot more, because I really thought, like, if I did something wrong, it was going to turn out wrong. Or if I didn't do enough, it was going to turn out wrong. And then once you realize, like, I can only do so much, and I really have to put it in God's hands, is it going to turn, and then it's going to turn out the way he wants it to turn out. And I just have to, even though if I don't agree with his plan, like his plan may be to take someone I'm close to and be like, I don't agree with it, I got to try to know that I can't do anything about it.
Right.
Yeah, that's good.
Cool. Thank you. I was curious about that.
That's kind of a funny story. We were in the mountains, and we're in this combat outpost, and we could see down into the wadi, right, when this like wash. And we were supposed to have a shura, which is like a meeting, and the villagers, senior people, the villagers would come, and every like Wednesday morning, and we'd have a meeting down at this like little house we had. It's like a room. And so one day we're watching them come up, and they're coming through the wash, and we're like, oh, they're kind of early, whatever. And then they get not so close, and they just sit down. And we're like, that's strange. And so we're just watching them, like, why would they just randomly sit down? 5 minutes goes by, and we're like, just sit down. And it was like, boom, 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 boom. We start getting, like, attacked, right? And so all these rockets come down, and then all of a sudden they, like, stand up and start walking towards us, right? And we're like, oh, well, I guess they knew we were going to get attacked. You know? They sat down waiting for it to happen, and they knew when it was over, because they stood up and started walking to us. And so, you just didn't, you don't know what's going to happen. We were like, oh, what's happening? Like, why are they doing this? And you have really no control. And then the funny part is, we're like, did you guys know we were going to get attacked? And I was like, no. You just randomly decided to sit down for the exact amount of time that we were getting rocketed.
And they said yes?
They were like, no, we don't know. We didn't know what's going on. Like, okay.
That's so funny, because when you take a step back and you look at life and you realize, like, you really don't have control of anything. I saw a video the other day, and it was from when we had all these tornadoes last week or the week before. And so it's this video of this huge tornado in a field, and in the field there's like, what do you call a bunch of cows? Is it a
herd?
A herd of cows.
Yeah.
A herd of cows, and they're just walking around with this tornado coming directly for them. Right? They're not running. They're not panicked. They're not looking for somewhere to hide. They're just eating grass. And I think to myself, like, why can't we as humans be like that? Like is that because we have this thing called consciousness where we feel like I can do something about what's happening?
They don't have a concept of the past and the future, so they don't have a concept of the past, so they don't have regrets, and they don't have a concept of the future, so they don't have anxiety.
So they have no concept of death.
So if you wanted to not worry or to not dwell, then the solution would be to be present.
But how can you not? It's
I
more
think-
like a philosophical
Yeah, you
question.
can't
How
do
can
that.
we?
The
How
human
can we
mind
not?
can't do
How
that.
can I not think about the past or the future?
I think because we were given free will and we have choices to be, and we think that our choices are gonna change the outcome.
I'm wondering. So I'm gonna take this to a biblical aspect. So I'm wondering, when we ate the forbidden fruit, if that is what we unlocked, like this sense of, there's a past and there's a present, and like, were we unconscious before we ate the fruit? That's why we were just like chilling, and there's no fear or no sin.
I think we were
And
doing everything.
After we ate the fruit, we unlocked our consciousness, and now we are aware of things.
I think it's a gift to
It
have
is.
that choice.
So I want to ask Chris to close us out.
Thank you for joining us for.
Look at the camera, not at me.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of The Story of Every Man, and we will see you next time.